The time is 9:29 p.m. or 10:29 p.m. if you're on the East Coast on February 27th, 2020. My name is Mickey, and welcome to another installment of the Backyard Bullshit Podcast. And today, I once again mentioned that the East Coast time, and that's because we have another guest with us today, and that is the one and only Schlosser and Fat Man himself, the Urinating Tree.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Well, we are certainly glad you decided to swing by today. And so, my first question to you is, Urinating Tree, who are the teams of all four sports that you follow?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your preference, I follow Pittsburgh-based teams. So, Steelers, Penguins, the Pirates. NBA, I don't really follow a team. I used to like the Toronto Raptors when I was younger, but more or less it's just like I'm just could live either way. I don't really follow a team per se.
Not even your own state's 76ers?
Oh, dear God, no. If I were to follow a Philadelphia team, I don't know what I'd do with myself. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia have a huge rivalry with each other. I think more Pittsburgh fans are probably a fan of the Cleveland team due to proximity. I mean, there were a decent bit when LeBron was there. I don't know about now, but dear God, Philly? No. 1,000 times no.
Well, as a Dallasite, I was not aware that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia had this kind of rivalry.
We're at each other's throats, dude. Penguins Flyers games, it's ugly.
I'm just trying to picture a 76ers fan who also supports the Cleveland Browns.
I mean, most of the time, I doubt it. The only way would be most of them would probably be Eagles fans. Keyword is most, but a 76ers fan with a Browns fan. Dear God, 2015 and 16 must have been brutal.
Indeed, especially with the Cleveland Cavaliers winning the title one of those years.
Yep.
And so since we're on the subject of the NBA, I don't remember what video it was. I want to say it was either... it might be your Sacramento Kings roast, where you stated that you're not a big fan of the NBA due to one of the reasons you gave was the amount of unlikable personalities in the league. Do you still think this is true, or has your opinion softened a bit?
Honestly, part of me has. There are some likable personalities. I mean, Giannis looks pretty likable. Damian Lillard, I would say Mitchell. Trying to think who else. But as I said, there's still some really unlikable players. The Rockets have a ton of them. I mean, I don't know how you feel about them. But...
Well, I like all of the Dallas teams, although some of my co-hosts are fans of the Rockets. In fact, one of them is the one I've been... one of them is Cool Hand, and hopefully he'll be on the podcast later today. But yeah, do you think LeBron James is on one of your unlikable personalities, especially after the whole China fiasco?
I mean, yeah, the China thing just disappointed me. I mean, the one thing I never complained about him with, it was his, propensity and his activeness in social justice, because he always backed it up and he never really had it happen on the court. But literally just dismiss the plight of Hong Kong and say and just dismiss it and be in the band of an extremely brutal totalitarian nation. It's just, that was rough for me, man.
So, you've stated on your most recent video that you want to start putting out more baseball and hockey videos now that football's over. In fact, I think you stated this on your XFL video. A lot of your fans... Well, actually, I can't speak for... I don't know. I don't have the exact number, but I have noticed some of your fans, myself included, that are more, I guess... would list NBA in their top two, at least in their top two favorite sports here in the States, want to see more basketball content from you. Would you say that when it comes to NBA content, for example, you just put out a entire roast of the New Orleans Hornets organization, uh, do you feel that NBA videos you kind of have to be inspired a little bit more to make them, is is this something else?
I agree with that. I mean, like there has to be like a spark for them. Like I need like a scenario that really like inspires me in a way. Like the Lakers last year, that was something that like really piques my eye. Because the real good thing about the NBA to me is they have some fantastic shit. I mean, look at the Knicks, look at the Kings, look at the Chicago Bulls with Garpax. That might be one I do in the future. The Phoenix Suns, I get a lot of requests for, and they're a mess. Robert Sarver, he's a character. Let's just put it that way. But the Hornets, one I've always wanted to do was just a deep dive on Michael Jordan's legacy as an executive, and that's where the Hornets vid comes in.
And last NBA question I have for you. I'm just asking you these because I myself am, one, a big fan of your content, and two, NBA is my favorite sport. So I must ask, is there something the NBA can do to make you go, all right, yeah, I can post more content of this on the regular basis, like trade deadlines, All-Star Weekend videos, stuff like that. Is there something it needs to do, or are you kind of set in your ways?
I don't know about that. The main thing would be time constraints. Most of the time, just because, like, unfortunately, I'm just one man working on bids, and most of the time, like in the NHL or like the NBA, that's when NFL reaches its peak. The NHL is getting All-Star break, so it's just like a bad timing in most parts in terms of trade deadline and the All-Star game.
Fair
and
enough.
Plus, like in the fall, it's NFL, unfortunately.
Fair enough. As promised, that was the last NBA question I will ask you, so let us move right along. So you are famous for your roasts, and so I have to ask, your videos are more comedic in the sort of mean kind of way as compared to a lot of other sports YouTubers. So I have to ask, who would you say are your comedic influences? Are you a fan of the old Don Rickles? Were you a big fan of the Comedy Central roasts? Or was...
I mean, like, as I said, like, I wasn't really influenced by anybody with this sort of stuff. I mean, I grew up watching, Dave Chappelle, Robin Williams. I like Jeff Foxworthy as a kid, even though that means, like, nothing now. But that was when I was, like, 10. So, I mean, I'm trying to think who else, really. But as I said, like, my inspiration was really just, like, a fascination with god-awful sports games. And you can thank the Pittsburgh Pirates for that. So just being 20 years of just being absolutely terrible. And that got me in my weird fixation towards this sort of thing.
And would you say that the Pittsburgh Pirates being absolute trash, would you say that was kind of the spark that lit the fire of your YouTube channel, or does that come from another source?
I'd say it's more the Cleveland Browns. That was more the spark that got me into sports, because there was a video made back in around 2011. It was called Only in Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns, since the new expansion, since the return to Cleveland, I think it was. I think it's still available on YouTube, but it's a re-upload. It was a great video. It went from like 1999 to 2011, but it didn't say anything with the Jimmy Haslam era. So, and then, like 2016, when I was starting, they were on the way to 0-16. I mean, that wouldn't happen because San Diego Chargers happened, but I wanted to find a way to bridge the gap, and that's where the Cleveland Browns video came into play. So it would be more them and the Jacksonville Jaguars, because they had completely bottomed out. Gus Bradley had just been fired. I think they went like 3-13 or something like that. So, like that, it got me into it, and I just like started running with it.
Now, your YouTube channel, would you consider it successful at this point?
I mean, at this point, like, I don't know if I'd really call it a success. I mean, there's a market for it, obviously. I mean, if you're considering in that regard viewership, I'd say, yeah, it's a success. But to me, like, success is more, am I not putting out, like, shit? Like I said, am I putting out good content? That's how I usually deem success. And if I'm putting out a subpar product, guess what? nobody's going to watch. At least that's how I feel.
You seem to take a pride in your work, and it shows. Your videos are always high quality. Is there a video that you've put up that, in hindsight, you kind of wish, I kind of wish I had phrased this differently, or you know what, an edit would have been good here, or are you that kind of perfectionist, or are you someone that goes, you know what, no, I am satisfied with this, and I will be until the day I die?
You pretty much have to, because I'd be editing nearly every video because sport is cyclical. There are a lot of videos that have gone from aged well to aged poorly back to being aged well, like, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, San Fran's in that aged poorly category again, and it might age well if they had poorly. Like, I'd be doing that every year. So that's why I can't really change anything per se, because that's a time frame, like a period, and it's just a reference point to that time.
Fair enough, fair enough. And then you make videos, lengthy ones at that, where you just one where you roast entire sports organizations, but you also make videos specifically when a specific team gets eliminated from either playoff contention or from the playoffs. And a recurring theme I've noticed here is the Chicago Cubs. Do you have a specific hate boner for them, or do you just love getting the reactions from their fans?
It's a little both. I mean, our fan base is just arrogant as hell, at least from what I've seen. But and it's also that both those teams imploded in spectacular fashion that I had to do.
Since our ye old Texas Rangers are in the AL West division, do the Pittsburgh Pirates and Chicago Cubs, are they in the same division?
Yes, NL Central.
Okay,
the Cardinals. I know you love them, unfortunately.
Don't remind me.
There's also the Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, thank you. I'm not the residential baseball expert on the podcast. That'd be my co-host Dealer, who is out of the state at the moment, which is why he isn't here with us, unfortunately. So, you mentioned that the Chicago Cubs fan base is arrogant as hell. Did that stem from their World Series win?
No, I mean, they've been like that for a good bit. As I said, most of it's just just the way they had a victim complex for a long time. Now, how they treated Steve Bartman, how it felt like they deserved a World Series per se, and that's why I'm never forgiving Cleveland, because you can ask anyone even from St. Louis who has an even bigger hate boner for Chicago. They saw this coming. Milwaukee too.
A ticking time bomb were the Cubs.
Pretty much. I mean, well, let's put it this way. When you have a team that hasn't experienced any sort of success, it's been nothing but pain, and then you give them a taste of success in anything, they become wildly insufferable. Look at Boston. They were considered the lovable losers 20 years ago. They never won a damn thing. Fast forward 10 years, nobody can stand them. So, as I said, it's just the cycle of sport. Pittsburgh's the same way. So, and it's not to any specific city, it's just psychology.
It's certainly true. I mean, as a Cowboys fan, us and the Steelers have definitely had our bouts over the years.
Oh, yep, and we're still insufferable, both of us. And I'll say that about Steelers fans every day.
Yeah, I gotta admit, as a Cowboys fan, I look at some of the stuff other fans post on social media, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No, tone it down a notch, please.
Yeah, it's a half delusion, half old pride.
Yeah, on the one hand, I appreciate the optimism, but the other part of me goes, come on, be a little bit less idealistic for once, please.
Our head coach was Jason Garrett. You aren't going that far. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and now he's with the New York Giants, and so Jason Garrett has lots of experience beating the New York Giants, so good luck to them.
Jeez. Well, he's as a coordinator now, so, I mean, if I were as a head coach, you're in trouble. But as a coordinator, he's in a lesser position. He doesn't have much power. I mean, he's in a position he's more comfortable with, so he might do all right.
Yeah,
Same
definitely.
as Freddie Kitchens. Like, he's just a position coach. He might do better in New York in a lesser role.
Definitely, definitely. So, a question I had for you is I believe my co host Cool Hand was going to ask you this if he was on, but I think I'll go ahead and ask it in his stead. Of your editing process from the very beginning to when the video is actually uploaded and you post it all over your social media, what is that process like?
To me, I treat video making like an onion. You have to use layers and then do it one step at a time, or else it will just go haywire and crazy. To me, it begins with just like the idea. Like, I mean, okay, what would be a video that would be interesting to edit, interesting to write? I mean, the ideas aren't the problem. It's just like piecing them all together and creating a finished product. And that's what I consider my writing stage. Currently now I'm writing sports ball for the NHL trade deadline. So I'm just trying to piece that together, get it organized, try and make it palatable, or at least like watchable in a way. And once I feel like I'm satisfied with the final writing product, I'm going to go to voicing. And then by voicing, I'll have to cut out a lot of like, and make sure it's like streamlined and clean. So I'll do some vocal editing there. Then comes gathering footage, which, I mean, can eat up a lot of space and can be kind of a pain in the ass when you want to find something and you can't find it. Then comes video editing, which, I mean, if you've ever done, it's very time consuming and more of a slog than anything. It's just like, it's something you have to do. So I do the base editing first. It's just like, the underlying footage underneath. I do all of that first. Then underneath, I do like the clippings of like article headlines to reinforce certain points, special effect or like any sort of effect I may use, anything like in terms of like text that you may see on the screen. I call that like my bells and whistles stage, and I'll add that underneath everything, finish that up, and then underneath would be like beds and music, maybe sound effects I add during like the base editing, so I know where to put like certain pieces. But otherwise, that would be your finished product. And after that, I render it. I put together a little title card and put it on YouTube. So in terms of time, I'm not sure how long it takes. I'd say like if I get it under 10 to 15 hours, I'm lucky. But for the most part, there's some that take significantly longer, like certain legacies of failure. I have no idea how many hours to put into.
I mean,
You have any other questions, my man?
oh, I do. I was just gonna add
about the editing process. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add that. I mean, basic audio editing is a complete slog. So the fact that you have to edit audio and video, I mean, geez.
Yeah, I blame my voice sometimes because I fudge up lines sometimes. It's just like really. Or the new place I'm at, unfortunately, it's in front of like a rather busy like street. So you sometimes hear cars driving down or a bus. It's like, really?
Oh, I relate to you on that. The place where we record is right next to actually, it's in between two airstrips. One airstrip is for like flight training, and the other is an actual miniature airport. I think in the last video I edited, the baseball-centric one, I think around the 40-minute mark, you can actually hear a plane flying overhead. So I mean,
no soundproofing in the world can fix that.
Oh yeah, I completely relate to you on that front. So also, that's all I had about the editing process. I was just gonna ask if there's a favorite video of yours on your channel. Is it the one where you made the song about the Chicago Cubs getting eliminated? Is it a specific legacy of failure, or is it something else?
To me, the ones I usually love the most are the ones that tell a story. The ones that, piece together like a long, like a tale, per se. Like the Brooklyn Nets one, the Detroit Tigers, the Red Wings, certain legacies of failure that you put a lot of time into. Like, those are the ones that I like the most.
So, Mr. Tree, you enjoy your favorite your favorite videos are ones that tell a story. Is there a uh, sports story that you just think is in the process of happening? Is it a ticking time bomb, or is there like a legacy of quote unquote success story where you're just like, you know what, I wish I could make a video about that, but due to my roasting, I just can't.
I don't know. I might think about that. I mean, the one I've wanted to do for the Pittsburgh Penguins is just a legacy of incredible bullshit. Because if you've ever heard their history, the franchise has been saved roughly about 10 times. They nearly, like, they were bankrupt in the mid 70s. They were terrible in the early 80s. They didn't get any traction. They wasted Lemieux most of his early years. They had the mess of the 90s.
There's even a rumor they were gonna move to Houston in the late 90s.
Moved to Houston and Kansas City in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, too, like, I mean, Yager saved the franchise in the late 90s. That would have been your Houston move. They were bankrupt a couple times, like in the late 90s, because Howard Baldwin threw all their money into a renovation and cut off all the revenue funds. Then Mario Lemieux had a lot of money owed to him, and he conveniently decides to take over ownership of the team instead of suing. And then there was the move to Kansas City. The casino deals reached at the 11th hour. The team saved again, and then you get a bunch of cuts. Like, it is pure bullshit.
It's true. It's true.
Does it ever hurt whenever you have to make a legacy of failure or some sort of video where you just talk so much shit about one of your own teams?
Sometimes it's just like, dear God, this is depressing. That's the one I thought about, the Blues one. Because in the beginning, I was thinking, oh, Blues, no cups, and then you laugh at it. But then you look at their history, it's like, dear God, this is sad. And if they had a legitimate ownership who didn't suck or sell the franchise down the river, they'd have won a cup long before 2019.
Now, Cool Hand, I've asked Mr. Tree here about who his teams are, his editing process, what his favorite videos are. Did you by chance have any questions for him?
Let me catch what those teams were. I apologize.
Oh, my favorite teams? Unfortunately, they're Pittsburgh-based teams, so it would be Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh Pirates. Unfortunately, they're Penguins. NBA, I'm like more. I didn't really have I liked the Raptors when I was younger, but now it's like, not really. I don't really follow a team.
Fair enough. Look, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, so.
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, hey. It is what it is.
I mean, let's put it this way. When I'm infuriated as division rival about that team, there's something wrong. Like that last year was embarrassing.
You telling me a guy named Duck wasn't the answer?
No. Are you talking to me a guy named Freddie Kitchens who looks like an Alabama redneck wasn't the answer?
Well, that was all the joking in the first place, but
pretty much. But
well, I'm also a Texas Tech alum,
ugh.
And so Baker Mayfield's like kind of a personal thing for me.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, and Kyler Murray too. Patrick Mahomes.
A little bit, but that was A&M more than Tech was.
Murray was A&M.
There have been very few people I've wanted to hit in the face more than Baker Mayfield, and he's my starting quarterback, so it is what it is.
I mean, I was never a fan of him coming out of college because it just like got too many Ryan Leaf vibes from him. But yeah,
no one could be that bad. He's not buying.
He's not breaking down in front of reporters. So,
well, he's not buying painkillers off his players.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. It's kind of a sad story with Leaf, unfortunately.
It is. But he is on ESPN now, so.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's clean, hopefully.
Buying pills off your own players, that's just a new level of sad. Well, we are at the half-hour mark, or at least pretty close to it, so why don't we just dive on into some general sports topics.
Stuff, man.
Alright, well, baseball spring training. In fact, you know what? Screw it. Let's not even talk about spring training, because this is a subject that has been on our previous two shows, and goddammit, we're going to make it a third show in a row. Urinating Tree, the Houston Astros cheating scandal.
Oh dear.
Yes, our buddy Cool Hand here had a, I'm not going to say heated debate. It was more like a mild disagreement with our other host, Dealer, where, with Cool Hand being the in-house Astros fan, said, not really a big deal. What say you?
I mean, it did violate the sanctity of the game. Unfortunately, with the way the Astros players are reacting, they're having absolutely no remorse for it. I mean, you got caught. It happens. I mean, I mean, I know exactly why the MLB isn't going to strip the title from the Astros. It's because they don't want to talk about it 50 years down the road. They've been trying to bury this from the moment it was announced. And, like, even with the internet, like, screaming at them, reporters screaming at them, all the evidence in front of you. I got trash cans over here, and everyone's banging them. You can hear them, and, like, reports. Even the fines were kind of a slap in the fist, or the wrist, but it's just a really bad look. And this is me saying, like, as a guy who liked that 2017 Astros. I mean, Game 5 was a fantastic game, and I can't even think of it the same way. And I can't think of it the same way. It was a very good game, but unfortunately, I don't know if the Astros were cheating or not that time. So guess what? I can't think. It's tainted to me. And unfortunately, it will probably be because even Manfred's admitted the sign stealing thing happened during the 2017 postseason. So did it happen during Game 5 or what?
I'm sure it happened during Game 5. My deal is everybody's been cheating for 100 years. They shot her around the world, the 1951 Giants team. The Giants win the pennant! The Giants win the pennant! They had a telescope in center field for that game. And that entire season. Everybody cheats. And the only reason why they punished the Astros, quote unquote, as hard as they did, I'm not going to say they were punished hard. Really, $5 million for draft picks.
It's a slap on the wrist. I mean, they could have done
a slap on the
harder.
wrist. I'll be the first to admit it. It's a slap on the wrist. If they honestly think that they punished him, that's a joke.
No. Technically, if you punished them, they should have had Luno and Hinch banned for life. You would have had more picks suspended. You might have had your World Series strip.
World Series strip would be the only thing that really would have been effective.
Yeah, but even then, like, you already have your title. The only thing would be, like, your legacy of failure, quote unquote, is technically back on. But even then, people will say, like, the Astros still won. I mean, I don't think it could be.
The medal's there, right? According to Rod Manfred, the medal's still there.
It's a piece of metal in his words.
Yeah, in his mind.
It's so tone deaf, it's not even funny. Like, really, dude, Manfred, it's like, I know you're trying to bury this, brother, but you're fighting a losing battle. I mean, come on, Yankees fans are trying to beat their chest thinking they're going to win the World Series. Come on.
So the thing for me is probably my biggest deal is the Cardinals in 2010 when they literally hacked into the Astros system to steal all their prospect information.
Mm-hmm. And that guy was banned for life. And I think
he was banned for life, and he went to jail.
Yep.
But if you try to convince me that the Cardinals weren't more involved than they made themselves out to be, you're fooling yourself.
The reason why is because like Luno was an old executive of the Cardinals.
He was the assistant GM there.
Yep.
And so for me, it just felt like had this been the Yankees, had this been the Red Sox, had this been the Dodgers, by the way, who did all similar things, by the way.
I've heard rumors about the Yankees. And the Red Sox in 2018, they may have apparently moved it over to them.
Yeah. And so, because they're franchise organizations, part of the problem with the Astros is they're nobodies. And so, Major League Baseball decided, like, hey, we caught someone doing it. We're going to make an example of them right now. Right now. And so they punished the Astros. When there's been so much cheating in baseball, it's not even funny. Hell, there was a time when the
It's not
Yankees
about
had
you
four
cheating, it's
guys
the
who got
fact that you were
suspended for
caught.
steroids.
And they got suspended for steroids, and even then, though, that period's tainted too.
It's tainted, but it's not tainted like the Astros World Series. And a little bit of this will go away. The real
It'll
key
go
for
away
the
because
Astros
nobody
is
wants it to go away. Like, I mean, they'll be in like the archives in 50 years because that's why they don't want to strip the title. Because when little Jimmy sees an asterisk in 50 years and asks, Grandpa, why is there a huge asterisk next to this 2017 World Series? And then he'll say, well, little Jimmy, it's because the Astros were stealing signs with technology and they decided to throw the book at him. They don't want to know about that. They don't want to hear about that 50 years down the line. I mean, that's why Pete Rose got banned, and he'll probably be in the Hall of Fame when he dies. Because they don't want to talk about it.
they're gonna wait till he dies before they get him in there.
Pretty much, it'll be like about 10, give it 5 to 10 years after he dies. And it'll be.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, there's just been cheating going on, and it goes on in every sport, in every aspect. It's just how much you get caught and how much leverage you have with the league to be able to pull off these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I honestly don't care about steroids. I never have. It saved the sport I love.
The thing
But-
with steroids is it doesn't make you into a good contact hitter. So, like,
Right.
guys like
You still have to hit
Clemens
the ball.
and Bonds, they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Because
But here-
that period when they took steroids, they're still Hall of Fame caliber.
They're still Hall of Famers. Absolutely. However, as of right now, when it comes to the baseball hall, you do not have the guy with the most hits. You do not have the guy with the most home runs. And you do not have the most walks. By the way, that's Barry Bonds as well. But you have all these greatest of all time. And second in strikeouts, which is Roger Clemens. None of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. None of them.
That's because
so baseball has a
the
problem.
Association, they pretend to be gatekeepers. They're more interested in unwritten rules instead of, honoring the best.
Well, I even said this about Craig Biggio when he wasn't getting elected in the Hall of Fame. Craig Biggio is one of the top people person ever. The Sunshine Kids, if you're from Houston, is such a big deal. It's ridiculous. But he didn't get in right away because of the moral clause. And the moral clause should work both ways. If you're going to punish people for the moral clause, you should also promote people for the moral clause. And so the fact that it took 4 years for Biggio to get in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous.
It took Larry Walker 10.
Oh, Larry Walker was a Hall of Famer, but it should have never taken this long. Never.
Well, it's because they want to pretend to be gatekeepers. Like, you'll put in Harold Baines. I mean, he had like a lengthy career, but it's very And then you have Larry Walker sit there for 10 years. Come on.
Well, speaking
No,
of,
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
well, speaking of the Hall of
They
Fame,
feel like they have a power that they don't really have.
It's baseball writers
exercise
of
it.
America. It's because like they want to pretend that would be Eagle trips, and that's why their print media is dying. Did I say that?
No, I 100% agree with you. They feel like they have a power that they don't have.
well, speaking of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Tree, do you believe Derek Jeter is a unanimous entry?
Derek Jeter has always been the kind of guy who always wanted like the accolades that other people got. That's why I think he did that retirement tour like the year after Mariano Rivera, because he saw what the accolades Mariano was getting and thought he wanted that too. I don't think he should be unanimous because his defense was, but like he was a great player. He should have had over 95%. I agree with
Absolutely.
Like,
He's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes, but I do not agree with unanimous. Like, unanimous would be like, say, Ted Williams or Stan Musial, Roberto Clemente,
Or Babe Ruth.
or even like Barry Bonds without steroids.
Right.
That would be unanimous.
And I agree with you. If you're going to be the unanimous in the Hall of Fame, you need to be the best player at your position ever. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek Jeter was not the best shortstop of all time.
You can make the argument he wasn't the best shortstop on his team.
That's true. You talking about the third baseman there?
Yep, Mr. A-Rod.
Yes.
Ah, yes, A-Rod, the guy Mark Wahlberg should have shot instead of Derek Jeter. Well,
Rangers fans hate, or sorry, Yankees fans hated A-Rod. But it's just like,
so
dude, he
does
helps you the
Rangers
World
fans.
Series. Rangers
So do Rangers fans, so do Mariner fans. Like, the guy's just a piece of garbage as a human.
Yeah,
But he is marrying J-Lo, so good.
Yeah, the thing with Rangers, though, is this, like, their owner threw a shitload of money at him. If you need to blame anybody, blame Tom.
Tom Gallardi? Oh, so I'm a Dallas Stars, Texas Rangers, and Liverpool fan. So those are all organizations owned by Tom Gallardi, and he ran all three of them into the ground.
Mm-hmm. And that's why Tom Hicks declared bankruptcy.
Tom Hicks, not Gallardi. Hicks. You're right.
yeah, as a Rangers fan, while I'm not the biggest fan of A-Rod, what irritates me the most is that they traded Sammy Sosa. That I just can't get over.
He was unproven at the time.
No, it was a good trade for them at the moment.
Well, sticking on the baseball train, what was it? 7 Astros players have been hit by pitches, and it's only spring training. Mr. Urinating Tree, do you believe that the players' reaction to the Astros scandal, Trevor Bauer, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, etc., the entirety of the city of Los Angeles, do you believe their anger is justified? And what do you think of the Astros players getting hit by pitches?
I feel like it's half and half, mostly because there are, like, a lot of different variables. With the LA, like city, like babies. Like, we should strip those titles and bring them to LA. No. You still lost Game 7 at home. 2018, you were flat out dominated, and what happened to the other years? Go. In terms of the players, there's a huge chasm in between them and ownership. They think there hasn't been any real discipline levied out in terms of the players. They see them being unremorseful towards the accusation. And there's a huge schism between even players' unions and ownership in general. So that's just breaking up a divide. It's going to cause a further wedge. The Astros are public enemy number 1 in baseball. They're going to be the most hated team. They're going to be people bringing in trash cans before they're confiscated. They've had signs literally stolen from fans, ironically, like calling them out on their bullshit. And they're going to have some rogue agents beating players with baseballs. And some of them maybe get away with, like, poor pitching, saying, like, oh, I have no control, I missed my spot. Astros fans are going to think it, and in general, they're going to think, oh, everyone's against me, and it's us against the world. So that's what's going to happen with the beating. And beating is a very old school way of trying to get, like, some sort of vigilante justice. Or you can even see, like, slaughter and, like, literally slide your cleats up into someone's shin.
When I say for the options, embrace the hate. Like, people are going to hate you regardless of what you do. It doesn't matter what you say, how much you apologize. Even if you say, everything's my fault, guess what? No one's going to believe. So embrace the hate. Use that hate to win. I mean, they're still going to win 90 cents. This isn't a bunch of scrubs that are playing this game.
Like, they're still a quality
team. They can still pitch. They can still hit. They're not as good as last year because they lost Garrett Cole. But this is still a good team. Like, I saw Yordan Alvarez. I live here in the Austin area. And I watched Yordan Alvarez hit last year. And that guy is legitimate with or without knowing what the pitches are.
Unfortunately, he didn't do much in the postseason, but he's still a stud.
He is. Well, I mean, he was still a rookie.
Yeah. Well, you can say that more about Bregman and Correa, Altuve. Like, they didn't really do much in the World Series.
They didn't. Well, it's because the Nationals figured it out.
Well, because they switched up.
Apparently, the Dodgers told them what was going on. And so, this is part of my issue with all the cheating scandal. If you know what's going on, then fuck with them. Put on the signs that you think they're reading, and then just do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Nationals pitching staff was nothing to snuff at either. I mean, Strasburg.
I mean, they were wrong with half the pitching staff, but they were really good.
I mean, Scherzer and Strasburg are two of the top two of all time. Pure talent.
Of this generation, easily.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers haven't thrown out a top two that good. I know Kershaw is like elite, but Scherzer and
He's
Kershaw
elite,
on the
but
same
he
level.
keeps choking in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Kershaw still has that playoff mountain to get over. So, Mr. Tree, who do you what are some teams that you believe fans should keep an eye on for the next upcoming season? Well, and we discussed the Astros a bit, but as a Rangers fan, I want an outsider's perspective. How do you think our offseason was, and how do you think the Rangers are going to do this time?
The Texas Rangers, I mean, most of your success last year in pitching was due to Lance Lynn and Mike Minor pitching eons over their heads. Do you think they're going to do that again this year? Because that's going to be the only way you'll have a chance. Like, you have Todd Frazier. Okay, that's a good third baseman. Odor was terrible last year.
Yes, he was.
Like, Shin-Soo Chu's aging. Like, his Google. Oh, wait, you don't have a Google anymore. What am I talking about? You traded Mazzara, so maybe he gets it together in Chicago. Maybe he doesn't. You brought in Corey Kluber, who's a huge question mark because he's had past talent, but he's coming off a major injury issue, and he wasn't the same pitcher last year. So I see more mediocrity. I'm sorry. But it's just because of, like, some regression and some regression. I think it's just going to be the same, to be honest with you.
Oh, I mean, all those are valid observations. I mean, Kyle Gibson's a fine addition, but that's just it. He's a fine addition. You mentioned the pitching, but a good chunk of the Rangers' offense carried the team to the record they had, and even with the Astros and Oakland is still in the division, I mean, Houston lost Garrett Cole, but they're still a great team, and Oakland is still going to be pretty
Oakland's still going to be there. Seattle's your bottom feeder. I mean, they've still got a couple years left. The Angels are trying to bolster, but they still have huge question marks in pitching. They just brought in a bunch more question marks there, but they just added Anthony Rendon. So,
I mean, Anthony Rendon could play, but he's not the only answer. And
can Anthony Rendon pitch? That's your problem.
Exactly.
Leo Tehran, if you look at his pitching velocity, it's dropped it nearly every year. Dylan Bundy has potential, but he keeps giving up a ton of home runs and not good in this climate. Still lack a bullpen. Your best closer is Hanzo Robles. And I don't think he's a closer. And
exactly.
and you've suffered massive embarrassment by a guy who got sold, I think it was opioids by an Angels clubhouse employee, and he was your best pitcher. So,
right.
I don't know what you can really say. I mean, if everything rolls out for you, you could get second in your division, but more than likely third.
Yeah, the Rangers need to make a lot of changes for them to actually contend for a playoff spot due to the division being so strong. So, we discussed the Rangers. What other teams do you believe fans, even if you're not loyal to a team, what are teams that just fans of baseball should be looking at this upcoming season?
I consider the White Sox to be a sleeper. They had some real emergences come from their youth. Moncada was looking really good for stretches. Eloy Jimenez was looking all right. James McCann was doing pretty strong. Lucas Giolito turned into a bona fide ace. And they brought in a lot of interesting pieces. Dallas Keuchel is a mid-rotation guy. Nomar Mazara, who could finally tap into his potential, or he could do 60 with 20 home runs. Again, I don't know. They also, I'm trying to think who else. Drawing blanks. Yasmani Grandal. They brought him in too, and he's a huge addition for their bat. He was a nightmare for playing against in Milwaukee. Like, he was really good there. Trying to think who else. But, I mean, they're an interesting team that could take a step up. the Blue Jays look interesting, mostly because of their youth, like, Bichette, Cavan Biggio, Rowdy Tellez, Vlad Guerrero. They could take a next step up and really solidify their hitting core. I don't know if they'll do much this year, but if they get to 500, they're in good shape. I would say, trying to think who else would really be like an interesting team. The Reds, I don't know, because they're making a lot of moves, but I feel like it's kind of in vain because they made a lot of moves last year and it did nothing, and it showed me I don't know if they're really ready to compete. I mean, the Central's going to be a mess, but I don't know. Maybe they could do something. I don't know who else. I don't know if the Padres are truly ready yet. The Diamondbacks are a huge question mark. I don't really know.
What do you feel about Madison Bumgarner operating under a different name and doing the rodeo?
That's an interesting proposition. It adds to his mythos. It's it would have been funny if you were injured in a rodeo show and right after injured by driving a dirt bike. So,
remember a couple years ago, he had to miss the beginning part of the season because of an undisclosed injury. I have a feeling rodeo might have been involved.
I don't know. Did he go by the name Mason? Or is it
No,
Mason?
he went under some random name. Can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but
let me look it up.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for ye old Reds, White Sox, and the other teams you mentioned. Let's stray away from baseball for a moment, and let's talk football. Urinating Tree.
Mason Saunders was his alias.
Well, on the subject of football, Mr. Tree, do you think Tom Brady is actually going to go to another team, or do you think this is all just media hype?
I think so. I think the Patriots are eager to move to a younger quarterback. If you were looking at Brady last year, you saw a guy who could game manage, but a lot of his physical abilities have withered away. And, he's 43, going to be 44. Do you trust him to start as a quarterback? And I'm looking at Oakland, I'm looking at LA, I'm looking at... And somebody's going to be foolish enough to sign him. And it might be like a Brett Favre situation where he does well and it just comes crashing to the ground, which was kind of showing signs of last year.
Do you think Tom Brady is one injury away from retirement, or do you think he's a bit more durable than that?
I don't know. He's 44. He's got a lot of money. It might be.
That's very true.
If he suffers another torn ACL, he might think it's not worth it. Calls it quits. But Tom Brady's never really had injuries because he's had a great system and an offensive line in front of him.
Oh yeah, the Patriots' offensive line has consistently been one of the best in the entire league.
This past year was kind of different, combination of injuries and new pieces, but it's always been up there.
Do you think that going into this season, do you think that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as the San Francisco 49ers, are going to be as dominant as they were this past season? Terry Brett...
Chiefs I can see, mostly because of Mahomes. They still have the talent on offense. 49ers, I'm not sure of. I can see
Yeah, I'm curious about that as well. Do you think their defense and offensive line will hold up, or do you think that's going to crumble too?
I think the defensive line will hold up. I'm not sure about the offensive line.
What about their supposed legendary secondary? Do you think that's going to crumble, or do you think that's going to remain steadfast?
Sherman's aging a good bit. He might take a step back. I don't know about them either. We'll take a look. You have to play the games.
Yes. Well, do you? Ben Roethlisberger was reported as throwing the football again. Where do you think he is in this upcoming season?
I don't think it's going to be as good as a lot of Pittsburghers think. You're a 38-year-old quarterback coming off of a major elbow surgery. It usually does not end well. And even in the 2 games he played before, he did not look good. His arm was off. He was missing throws. And you have to deal with even the limited mobility. it didn't look exciting to me. It just looked like a middle-aged man throwing a ball to his kid. It was like, okay. I mean, I was under the belief that he should have retired because, like, I don't think there's anything else he can prove. And it's also, like, I think it was just time to move on, but Steelers are obviously seeing it a different way.
Do you think the Steelers have a replacement in mind between the Duck and Mason Rudolph, or do you think they're going to try to get someone else in there?
I'd say somebody else. I mean, neither of them have really proven that much, per se. Mason had a rough year. Duck had his moments, but he kind of fell off and showed his limitations. So it might have to be outside.
Do you think NFL teams should push for Terry Bridgewater?
I think I can see a team or two signing him. New England would be perfect for him, especially with his short passing style. He'd be great. He's like a younger Brady in that regard. But he'll be a hot commodity on the market easily. Because he's proven he can stay healthy and he can still throw. He can manage a game.
Now
He played really well for the Saints this year, for sure.
Yeah, the Saints are a question mark because I don't know how much Drew Brees has left in the team.
Well,
He's
Brees
going
and
to be,
Taysom
what,
Hill, too.
40, 41?
Kinda,
Taysom Hill's an RFA, though. He could get poached by somebody.
So, the AFC East is firmly in the hands of the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, or do you think the NFL is going to adjust to Lamar Jackson this upcoming season?
I like Lamar Jackson. The key for him is to continue developing as a pocket passer. He showed flashes of brilliance there, but he'll need to continue that ascension because against Tennessee, he looked pretty off. The whole team looked flat, and there are times where it's just like he looks rough throwing a football. And he'll have to keep improving and developing his craft in order to change or to deal with the changes and scouting adjustments the teams make. Sorry, that was my phone. For the most part, as I said, like it would be on him mostly. I feel like.
Do you think more quarterbacks are going to try to go for the Lamar Jackson style, or do you think we're going to see more long-range snipers like the Joe Burrows coming out of the NCAA?
I can see a blend of both. I think the reason why Lamar Jackson fell so far is because everyone was afraid of another RG3. And I think there's a lot of things there too. Like there will always be those questions about like scrambling quarterbacks. How much do they have left in the tank? How much can they actually throw the football?
How much of Lamar Jackson's success would you attribute to Baltimore's offensive line?
I'd say more also because of Greg Roman and because of the way he adapted the offense to Lamar Jackson's strengths. It's a little of both, I would say.
So it kind of the Greg Roman kind of reminds me of Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors a few years back, where he took over coaching positions and made the entire offense run around Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you anticipate overperforming or underperforming next season for football? You can throw the Cowboys in there if you want to. We've already talked about your Steelers a little bit, so is there anything you want to elaborate on?
I don't really know. I mean, I'll have to see how free agency and the draft pans out before I can really make a decision about it. A lot can happen in the next 3 months.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the draft. Do you think the Bengals are going to take Joe Burrow? Yes or yes?
I think so, unless Joe Burrow pulls an Eli Manning and demands to be traded somewhere else.
Do you think he has the clout to do that?
Maybe.
Yes.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. I mean, he has the pedigree, he has the notoriety to do it.
Well, speaking
I
of...
I don't know who has the assets to trade up to get him. That's my only concern. Like, I don't know who can trade up to number one without just giving up everything.
Probably Miami. It'd be the only one.
Yeah, but I mean...
You'd probably be offering 4 first-round picks. You might be able to get them.
Sure, no, it's true. If they take all the 3 first rounds that they have this year and next year, probably get them.
Well, speaking of the draft, you made a special video, Mr. Tree, of in which all optimism dies when the New York Giants picked Daniel Jones. Now that the NFL season's behind us, do you still believe that Daniel Jones was the wrong pick, or do you think actually he's not as bad as I thought he was going to be?
I mean, he shows his moments, but he has an issue with ball control. He fumbles the football a lot, and there are times where he just looks still. He needs development, and I don't know if there's going to be a further ceiling or this is going to be it for him. I was under the belief that the Giants should have picked Josh Allen because, like, that kind of defensive talent doesn't fall that far, and he should have been a top 3 pick. So that would have been my pick. And technically, you may have been able to get Dan at 17. So if you were doing that, you would have been easier to swallow. But Daniel Jones at 6 when he was expected to be like a 2nd or 3rd rounder. So I go, what? Okay. That just created ripple effects throughout the NFL.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you think of? You've alluded to this a little bit briefly in your off-season video, but I mean, where do you see the NFC East shaping up to be? Do you think it's going to be the Cowboys snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, or do you think the Eagles are going to be dominant this season?
The question is, has Mike McCarthy learned from his mistakes? Like, because he butchered a lot in Green Bay. Like, he got complacent and let Aaron Rodgers carry him. So if he's realized, okay, I can't do that anymore, you may have a chance. Dallas still has the talent. You're probably going to franchise tag Dak. And that means probably you're going to say bye-bye to Amari Cooper, Robert Quinn, and a few other guys. So the question is, can you fill those holes? And as terms of, like, the Eagles, it depends how injured they get. Like, they could still be really good, but they were just destroyed. And that's why they didn't get far. The Redskins are still building. They're going to take a while. And the Giants, I couldn't tell you.
Do you think the Giants should have taken Dwayne Haskins?
I mean, I was kind of like on the coin flip between Haskins. Like, I wasn't like super hot on him, but I thought he would have been all right. Like, as I said, I was more on the Josh Allen train that he felt.
Right. Well, Cool Hand, is there anything you wanted to ask Mr. Tree in regards to the upcoming NFL season?
So who do you think will be the second quarterback taken off the board? Do you actually think it'll be Tua?
I think it will be Tua. Mostly because there's a lot of rumors about him. Like, I mean, apparently the hips turned out like had a positive response to the MRIs and the X-rays. So I think somebody like either throws it like a shitload at Washington, or Detroit goes insane and trades Matt Stafford to pick Tua.
Well, Ron Rivera said, what was it, yesterday? That the Redskins are open to all possibilities, even drafting to a number 2.
Mm-hmm. So I said that Washington can do a lot with it. I mean, they'll probably young, but if they get an offer they can't refuse, guess what's happening? They're trading that pick.
Where does Dwayne Haskins go?
Dwayne Haskins? I mean, if they draft Tua, I don't know. They might pull like a Josh Rosen. They might get like I don't know if you get a first, you might get a
like
second
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pennies on the dollar, and I'm not crazy about that, but I don't know. Josh Rosen was destroyed, so.
Oh, he'll never be a good quarterback, and he could have been.
I thought I was high on him coming out of college, and I thought like he would have been one of the better quarterbacks, but like, dude, he is.
As a Cleveland Browns fan, that's actually what I wanted was Josh Rosen, not Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I thought like Darnold. I thought he could have gotten Saquon and then Baker with number 4, or even Darnold. But that's hindsight, though.
Yeah, it is what it is. Well, it's just being a Cleveland Browns fan. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, we will move on from America's current pastime and talk about the greatest Canadian sport of all time, hockey. Mr. Tree, what does it say about the Western Conference that most of the top 5 teams come from the Central Division?
The Pacific is a mess. There are a lot of teams there that have either struggled to gain traction or have fallen apart. My second favorite team is the San Jose Sharks, and I hate them. I want to strangle them with my life because they have pissed away every single opportunity in the state of free fall. And the first round pick is now in the hands of the Ottawa Senators, so guess what's going to happen? They might turn into Alexis Lafreniere. So have fun with that. I mean, the Golden Knights seem to be getting their shit together, but they should have been like that for a while. Edmonton, I'm not that sold on because of depth issues. Vancouver's having issues again. Calgary's been having like iffy. They have flashes. Arizona's collapsed again, and I hate them for it because I thought this was the moment where they didn't suck. Anaheim and Los Angeles are just bad.
So the Western Conference isn't really these teams are dominant. It's rather an entire division is trash.
Pretty much, an entire team division's just like falling apart at the seams. I mean, Nashville and Winnipeg have struggled. Like, Winnipeg has no defense. Nashville's had goaltending issues and fired their coach. So, it's wide open.
What do you think about the Golden Knights being in the current position where they were? Because one can make the case that they're not even competing for a Stanley Cup appearance.
I mean, they're shooting for a cup. It's quite obvious. The problem is they hit, like, some serious cap hell in the offseason that had to shut off some depth.
And so you think that's what's biting them in the ass, their lack of depth?
A little bit in goaltending issues. Like, Fleury hasn't been Fleury. He's struggled. Malcolm Subban's been pretty bad, but that's why they acquired Robin Lehner. I think that was a good deal for Vegas, especially at the price they got him at.
Yeah, it seemed a little cheap.
Yeah, it was very cheap.
cheap.
I was predicting in my stream, I thought it would have been, okay, maybe a first-round pick or two and Malcolm Subban for another goalie to go away. When I saw it was like a second long-shot prospect in Subban, I'm like, what? Was that cheap? Okay. Chicago sold low on all their pieces, man.
That's desperation.
That's why everybody wants Stan Bowman fired there.
Yeah, it's desperation. Like,
it's like I don't want to come out with anything, so I'm gonna take this little like 10 token prize at the Chuck E. Cheese.
Exactly. It was like, well, I could take $5 now or not get paid at all in a couple weeks, so I guess I'll take my $5.
Mm-hmm.
If you had any advice for your Penguins right now, what would it be?
Get your damn shit together. You've lost 4 in a row, 2 of them to really bad teams. It's embarrassing. Also, you have no zone entry and your defense can be ghastly. So fix that.
Well, put yourself in the Penguins front office. You are now an executive. What moves would you make to fix their poor defense, like you said?
I don't know if you really can. I mean, you're locked into some rough contracts. You're dealing with injuries with Dumoulin and Marino, so all you would really do is just wait it out and see if they come back at full strength.
Well, with the hockey season being past the All-Star break, you might be answering this in a hockey video that you might be releasing pretty soon, but who do you see as favorites out of both conferences to make it to the finals?
In terms of Eastern Conference, Boston looks good. I mean, Tampa, obviously, but they're probably going to choke again. Pittsburgh was looking good until now. Washington was looking good until now. It depends on who has the most momentum. And there's a lot that can happen in the next month or so. West, I see St. Louis, Vegas, Dallas a little bit, but they have consistency issues. Like Colorado was always my pick. It was Colorado, Carolina at the start, and Carolina hasn't launched as I thought they would.
Well, as a Dallas-based podcast, I do have to ask you about our Los Lonely Stars. Like you said, they've had consistency issues. Is this on the defense or the offensive end?
It's all both. Like, offensively, they haven't had trouble getting stuff going. They've got on, like, incredible winning streaks, and then they've had these massive losing streaks. I'm like, okay. I mean, they got kind of smacked by Boston tonight, but, I mean, it was in TD Garden. Like, Ben was looking, like, pretty rough for a bit. Now he's starting to come back to form. Gurianov looks pretty good. Rupe Heinz looks pretty good. It's mostly Ben Bishop's show, though, in the back end. Heiskanen looks good, though.
Yeah, he is looking to be one of our better prospects that I'm so glad we picked up. Since the Central Division has the Blues, who are dominating, and the Avalanche, who are looking very, very strong, do you see the Stars making a first or second wild card spot?
I think they can take one of the top 3 in their division. And they're at that point. Because there's like a huge gap between Nashville and Winnipeg.
Yeah, they're
Like,
up
I'd
like
have
8
to
or
take a
10
couple
points
laps
on
to
the
get in.
closest team. They
Yeah,
might actually win the division because the Blues are garbage.
Blues have won 6 straight.
I know,
I mean,
but they're still
surprisingly,
garbage.
but like, yeah. Do I have to?
Like,
tell
I
my
want to
viewers
say
Matt
they're
Martin?
garbage, but they did win a cup with Bennington and basically everybody from last year. So,
Game 7 was a clinic. Like couldn't even get it in their own
oh
end.
no, the Blues were the better team in that game. The Stars had no chance. I know with the OT and all that, but Stars never really had a chance in that game.
Because you left Ben Bishop on an island. That's pretty much how it was.
And Sagan's just got to be more consistent. But the Avalanche is a pretty good team too. They're all three of those teams are kind of running for the Central right now. So.
Oh yeah.
And the Avs can score, man. Their top 6 it might be the best top 6 in the league right now.
If the Avalanche, I was really high on coming in.
If they can get some consistent goalkeeping, they'll be tough to beat. But they don't, they'll be out real quick.
So, Mr. Tree, what do you think of I gotta make sure not to butcher this too badly, of Checkin's supposed dominance?
Of the supposed dominance of who?
Of Checkin, like Ovechch.
Ovechkin.
Ovechkin, yeah, him.
700 goals.
Oh man, he's greatness. I mean, I like to laugh at the Capitals, but I mean, Ovechkin's a great player. He's the best goal scorer of our generation. He does the same shit. It's like sit in the power play and there's just rip howitzers. But it works.
Look, if I want the best overall player of the last generation, I'd say I'll take Crosby. But if I want someone that I need to score a goal like now, I'm going to take Ovechkin.
I agree. Crosby is an outstanding player. And we're spoiled to have him here.
Absolutely. He's great. He's a great player.
Well, Coolhand, did you want to ask Mr. Tree anything else about the great Canadian sport before I move on?
Who do you really see is going to be the next team of the future? Not the team this year, maybe the next 5 years.
In hockey, maybe the Avalanche. Let's see them.
Avalanche.
It depends how certain teams build and develop from within. Senators have a shot because of all the first-round picks they have, but they have to draft and develop wisely. I would say it's too early to tell in some instances. I thought Toronto would have been a lot better than what they are, but they've made a lot of mistakes.
It's true. It's true. Bringing in Tavares has not worked out like they're anticipating, for sure.
They put too much money in the forward core, and it shows in their defense and goaltending.
Yeah.
And all they can do is try and outscore everyone like they did against Tennessee.
Well, they need Anderson to stay healthy.
Well, yeah, I mean, even then, he's being worn down to a nub.
Well, Mr. Tree, that will end our hockey discussion. Was there anything you wanted to talk about in the NBA? Or, if not, we do have some closing questions for you.
Not really. Not much really in the NBA right now. I'm mostly observing what's going on. I mean, the Sixers are a mess. The Lakers are insufferable, even though they're just 2 players and a bunch of ring chasers. The Bucks are really good. And laughing at the Knicks. That's always good.
Laughing at the Knicks is a basketball fan's pastime. Well,
I remember people in the comments telling me that the free agent signings were good and would help them win. No, you did nothing but power forwards who can't carry a team.
Look, I
Willie
call
Randle's a good
Carmelo
player, but he's a
melanoma
compliment.
for a reason.
yes, when we had Mr. 5 Point Videos on the podcast last time, we asked him if he was in the Knicks front office, what he would do to improve the team, and he said, resign.
I would chuck James Dolan off of a balcony and hang him by his underwear and a flag in front of Madison Square Garden. That is the only way you fix the Knicks.
That's fair.
Sell the team, Dolan, to quote you, Mr. Tree. Well, I do have one final question for you before we sign off. And this is a question I meant to ask you earlier, but I flat out forgot about it. Now that you have established yourself as someone that has legitimate sports opinions, what is your... When you go on like ESPN or Fox Sports or maybe even channels dedicated to a specific sport, what is the absolute worst take you've ever heard from ESPN, Fox Sports, etc.?
Oh, worst take. I don't know how you really like. Most of the time, like I just do like ESPN and Fox like in passing, and there's probably some really bad ones out there. Shit. Like you can talk about Stephen A. Smith sometimes, but he's stretched way too thin, so he's gonna make a ton of mistakes. Really rough ones I'm missing, and like I'm gonna be smacking heads like, oh yeah, you said that. I forgot about that. But as I said, most of them just blend in together for me. And I've made some shit takes too, trust me. You can name them.
I mean, I think you phrased it best earlier when you said that some of your videos, legacy of failures-wise, haven't aged well. Like Phillies, Washington Nationals,
Yeah, I mean, like, but sometimes like that's like more historical pieces. Like, I didn't expect a bunch of them to win championships, but it's like, it's fine.
Yeah, none of us did.
The first few, it's just like, fuck, I lost the legacy failure, but I like certain ones, you know, like the Reed one, the Blues one. Those, it's just like, okay, it's time.
It is very true. It is very true.
Cool with them both winning.
As fans of the sports, we're glad that that team won, but I mean, as a Cowboys fan, we weren't too happy about the Eagles winning. And then,
I mean, I wasn't a fan of the Eagles winning either. I'd rather deal with the cancer I know than the cancer I don't.
That's an excellent way to put it. And then with the Blues, as fans of hockey, we're happy for them, but as Stars fans, fuck you.
Well, I mean, you deal with Patrick Maroon in double overtime game 7. That's what you're remembering.
Yeah, no, I watched that.
The color maroon is all I gotta say.
Yeah, I watched that game live. That was painful. Well, Cool Hand, did you have any closing questions for Mr. Tree?
I think I'm good for the night. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Definitely, man. I'm glad to be on, man.
Yes, and thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Urinating Tree. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we sign off?
No, sir. My channel's Urinating Tree. Twitter handle, Urinating Tree. I mostly shitpost on there. I have an Instagram I barely use. I think it's like urinating_tree. But for the most part, it's just like, okay, I just use it once in a while. Nothing crazy.
All right, and when do you do your garbage fire streams with 5-point videos?
We usually do them on Tuesdays at 9. Sometimes Tuesdays at 8. Sorry, but 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I should notify that because I know you're Central. Most of the time, like we changed it to Mondays for football season. So, but most of the time we keep it pretty standard. It's just a chill stream. We don't really.
All right, well, there you have it. Check out his social media handles, his YouTube channel, and the stream he does with his supposed partner in crime, 5-point videos. My name is Mickey, and thank you for joining us here on another installment of the Backyard Bullshit Podcast.
This is Cool Hand. Thank you guys for showing up.
Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Peace out, bros.